Greg Famlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome, thanks for joining me. In today's video, not necessarily so much of a lesson exactly, but I do want to talk to you about practicing and how you go about increasing your ability to play all over the fretboard. Now, when we learn to solo, whether it be blues, classic rock, whatever, for most people, I think there's this aspiration that at some point, you know, we're going to be flying all around the fretboard and you know, playing anywhere on the neck and all this kind of stuff. And while all of that is a wonderful goal, and it's absolutely something that you should aspire to be able to see and use the entire breadth of your fingerboard, it's not how you learn it. I don't know how else to put it. It's not how you get there. If you try to, you know, first learn all 5 boxes and learn modes and learn diatonic scales and learn all these different things, all of a sudden you come and it's time to solo and you're just like, where do I start? Where do I begin? And on top of that, you're not going to be able to connect the stuff. There's a lot of things that are going to go wrong with that mentality, basically. In my experience, I should always say that. This is my experience. Now, I've taught a lot of people. So it's a lot of experience, but it is my experience. And I'm sure that there's somebody out there who's going to say, oh, well, I did it this way. That's great. But by and large, this is how things work. And this is kind of why, like, for example, in my Blues Guitar Unleashed course, I teach, you know, you do the box 1 and then you play some licks and a solo that uses that box 1. And then you add on box 2 and then you learn some more licks and a solo that uses that box 2 and connects it to box 1. And then you learn box 3 and you connect that to boxes 2 and box 1. And that's why we do it that way. But you may have already sort of gone through the process. You may have already learned a few patterns, okay? You might know, for example, I have what I call the 4-note solo pattern. And that shows up in a couple of my courses. I have a video here on YouTube about the 4-note solo. It's a great pattern. You can add that one note to it, and it kind of becomes the house pattern. We have this house pattern. We have like box 1, right? We have box 2, box 3, 4, right, et cetera, box 5. So we have all these different patterns, and there's more besides, right? You might know the Dorian scale, if you're wanting to do some of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things out there, right? I don't want to get carried away. There's a ton of stuff you could conceivably know. What matters is when you practice, right? You have to limit yourself. I always say there is freedom in the limits. Okay, if you know 5 different boxes, plus the 3+2 pattern and the 2+3 pattern and the sideways crawl and the finger snake 1000, if you know all those different patterns, and I go, okay, cool, play a blues, you're gonna be like, where do I start? That's typically, I'll say 99 out of 100 times, that's the reaction I get. Okay, if again, unless you're a more established soloist, okay, in which case this probably isn't going to be a very useful lesson. But if you're still struggling, if you don't like what you're hearing, this might have something to do with it. So let's just say I just played a little blues into my looper there, nice little slow blues jam track, right? You can get a slow blues jam track anywhere. What you want to do is you want to define what the limit is. So my limit is, okay, I'm going to just solo with my house pattern. And I might do this for, you know, 3 or 4 different courses, right? I could do that for a really, really long time. What's going to happen is you're going to start to find that you're playing the same thing over and over. I'm playing the same idea. It's the same thing. Okay, well, now it's time to dig deep. This is how you come up with new ideas. New ideas when it comes to soloing are not about new notes, because we all have the same 5 notes. We're playing A, C, D, E, G. Whether I'm playing it like that or like that or like that. Okay, all of those notes, and I know that's like, wow, all of those notes are A, C, D, E, and G. Okay, we don't get new notes. It's blues. okay? Or even if it's classic rock and we're using the blues scale, you don't get new notes. That's not how it works, okay? There's 12 notes in total, but generally speaking, there's 5 or 6 that we're gonna pick on when it comes time to do a solo. So you're not gonna get new notes. That means you're gonna have to come up with things that are interesting. Could be a bend. Typically, it's gonna be something rhythmic, right? Like triplets. Right, quarter note triplets, things like right, various little things like that that you can come up with. Different kind of rhythmic variation. That's what's going to make that interesting. And I might play, let's say I play through, you know, using that house pattern, that 4-note solo for a pattern while, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going to use, you know, box 1 for a while. But if I find myself always playing, and that's always what I do, I got to come up with something else. Right? Or maybe I say, you know, maybe you're pretty good. Maybe you're already playing, you know, boxes 1 and 2, and you feel pretty good about that, right? And that's a good portion of the fretboard. So I might say, well, I got that down. I'm going to play in box 4. Because all of these different boxes and all of these different patterns have different fingerings involved. Different things are going to feel comfortable. And you're going to find that there's just certain moves in certain boxes. For example, right, I can do that. And that fits really good in box 4. There's literally no way I'm going to do that in box 1. I mean, I could play it, but it's not comfortable. There's that little rake. Right? I can do a rake down there, but it's not the same. It's never gonna be the same. So just because I can do it doesn't mean that it's gonna sound exactly the same. And there's gonna be certain little things in like box 4 or box 3 that you might stumble upon and go, oh, that actually is pretty comfortable. Like, I kind of dig that. You will use that forever in that pattern, but you can't necessarily play it in the other pattern. Every pattern, no matter what it is, maybe it's all on one string. You could be playing, you could say, I'm gonna do my entire solo on the first string. Right? You can, you know, come up with whatever you may come up with. You might come up with some really cool stuff. You might figure out, hey, wait a minute, I can do like right? I can do like a Angus Young kind of thing right there. There could be a bazillion different things that you could do, but until you force yourself to have that limit, I'm going to play only on the first string. I'm going to play only on the second string. I'm going to play only on the 4th string, right? Until you limit yourself to only that, you'll never discover it, okay? And there's so many different, you know, obviously you can limit yourself to any single box. That's the easy one to imagine. Any single pattern, right? The 3+2, the 2+3. If you have my Rut Busters course, you'll know what those are. I've also put them here on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. The 4-note solo pattern, the house pattern, any of the 5 boxes, right? But then there's like, okay, I'm only going to use the top 2 strings. Now I got to switch from one box to another because I got to stay on the top 2 strings, or only the top 1 string, or only the 2nd string, or only the 3rd string. There's a lot of different ways you can conceivably limit yourself that will force you out of whatever current little rut or whatever comfort zone you're in. But you gotta take the time to get past well, I'm just playing the same thing over and over. Okay, well, how are you going to come up with something different then? That's when you have to really dig into your rhythmic bag of tricks. Quarter note triplets, triplets in general. You know, the Albert King 16th note dotted eighth note thing. 2/16 and a dotted eighth. There's a bazillion of them. I have a course called Rhythm Figures for Blues Lead Guitar that has all these different kinds of rhythm figures. That's where you want to, you know, that's where you can go. Or you can look at any lick that you know, or you can think of a melody that you know, and maybe you want to echo a certain melody, right? Maybe you've got something like, even at a slow blues, like Sweet Home Chicago, right? And let's say that I want to sort of echo that melody, and I want to remember to turn on my volume. And it's really slow, but it's there. Right? And obviously, yeah, it's not perfect, the Sweet Home Chicago, but it doesn't have to be. That's not the point. Rhythmically, I'm trying to navigate some notes that kind of make the same sort of line and are similar. And you could come up with literally any melody, you know, Happy Birthday, the Flintstones, it doesn't matter, any melody like that. And you can sort of try to emulate it just playing over a jam track. And you'd be amazed how that can unlock your sort of creative juices, all right? So again, I know this is not, I'll say, a lesson, but if you're working on your blues soloing, if you're currently practicing and you're learning licks and you're learning scales, you're learning patterns, this is how you want to practice them. Every day you should be putting on a jam track and just playing. I'm a huge proponent of just playing stuff. You will find certain sounds that will just resonate with you, that will work onto your fingers, that you'll just feel good playing and you'll like the sound of them, and those will become part of your vocabulary, okay? And of course, yes, I've got Blues Guitar Unleashed, and I've got dozens of other courses that have, you know, different things like I was talking about, the rhythm figures and different licks and stuff like that. I'll leave a link to my course catalog near this video. You can check them out. But you don't necessarily need that with what I've described today. You can take whatever you already know, limit yourself to one specific thing, and just play that today. And then tomorrow, limit yourself to one thing and play that. And you'll discover little bits and pieces along the way, okay? So as always, if you have guitar playing friends you think would get something out of this video, I hope you'll share it with them. I hope you'll take some time to actually try this for yourself. I know it might seem a little bit esoteric, it might seem a little bit heady, but I can promise you this has been a really, really vital part of my own sort of development as a musician, is just limiting myself to certain things and really trying to hone those things in a specific practice session. I think you'll get a lot out of it, okay? Again, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.